Hello, my friends. Welcome to the latest edition of Here's What We Know, the podcast of unexpected conversations. And we've been trying to pull this off for about 2 or 3 years now. But it's hard when you're dealing with somebody in the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame and who's still writing hit songs. It's hard to grab a minute with Tim Nichols, but I am so glad we finally did. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm so glad that this finally worked out. That we were able to make this happen. We did a little radio spot like a week or so ago because this time last week I was out there doing the Nate Deaton KRTY songwriter series. And so I saw you last. So we talked on the phone. So we did a phone interview, and then I saw you last week, and now we're doing this podcast. So I'm sure you're getting your fill of me these days.
No, I would think you're officially tired of me.
No.
I am. You know what? I am like Bananas Foster. It is fun to have every now and then, but if you had it 3 or 4 days in one week, you'd be like, I'm good.
No,
Good.
man, it's always a fun hang with you. It's always good to catch up with you, buddy.
What I love most about you, and I told you this last week when we saw each other, you and I have been doing this about the same amount of time.
Yeah.
I might have been doing it a little bit longer than you, maybe. But working in country music and working in the field of entertainment, and you have pulled off what is the fear for all of us who are blessed with lengthy careers, is that you've kept yourself in the game.
I've been so fortunate. And I think for me, so I think you and we were talking about this. I signed my first publishing deal. Ronnie Milsap had a little independent publishing company, and they signed me to a publishing deal, my first one, in December of 1986. So this year will be 39 years, 40 next year. And I think for me, the difference maker is that I still love it. I still love it 39 years later. I mean, as much as the first day. And I think
Well,
for me, that's what's made the difference.
here's my thing. I'm glad you still love it, but from my side, you're still good at it.
Well,
You're
I
still
appreciate that.
very good at it. I mean, your ability, and I'm always fascinated by songwriters because you guys, when you take a line, you go into a session, you figure something out, you find something, and then you literally build it out of nothing. And you can go,
Yeah.
well, we have a line or we have really no. I mean, it is writing anything is creating something out of nothing, whether it's a book, a play, or a song. And the thing about you guys do plays in 3 minutes and 20 seconds.
I mean, um, I feel like every time a song gets written, it's this little miracle, but to start with silence, like you were saying, silence and a blank page or a cursor blinking at you if you're on a laptop. And then to land on an idea. And then by the end of the day, to have this piece of music that didn't exist until then. It's just miraculous. And so to be able to do that for 39 years and still love it. I mean, I'm just so blessed. And I feel like it just basically lets me know. And I firmly believe that I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And I moved to Nashville in 1980, forever ago. And I had this little band, and I thought I didn't move to Nashville to be a songwriter. I didn't even know that was an option. I
Mhm.
moved there. I wanted to be a country singer. I wanted to be Waylon, or, I wanted to be a singer. And I get to Nashville and started going to the Bluebird Cafe and meeting other songwriters, and especially seeing the Bluebird. It's funny. I just played a corporate event there yesterday in the round, and going there, seeing those writers, They were hilarious. They tell great stories, and then they would write these. Then they would play these amazing songs. My whole thing was, okay, I want to figure out how to get in that circle. So I started writing lots of bad songs, and little by little, I figured it out. And for new writers, if there are any new writers out there listening, writing bad songs is just part of the process. That's what it takes. And I feel like we have this built in to our benefit. We have this built in defense mechanism in us, in most of us, in that we don't really know how bad our songs are at the time. And we play them for our friends and family, and they give us, our moms and friends and family give us all this positive encouragement and feedback. But honestly, kind of as far as where the bar needs to be to get a song recorded here in Nashville, you don't know that at the time, thankfully, because if you did, you probably wouldn't continue. But because you don't, and it's like, well, hey, these seem pretty good to me. You kind of keep going until you figure out. I mean, you go back and 2 years later, you can go back and listen to a song, or I can go back and listen to a song I wrote 35 years ago or 40 years ago before I moved here, when I was dabbling in it. Then you can see it's like, oh, well, this line's terrible. That's terrible. That makes no sense at all. That's totally off the point. That doesn't point at the hook. So writing bad songs and then just writing period is part of what you have to do. And it's not the easiest thing, but if you love it, then even though it's hard, if you love it, it's not like work, or at least it's a different kind of work.
Can you appreciate, though? I mean, because we can all sit back. I can sit back and listen to myself, right, back in 1977 or 1980, and go, "Ugh." But I could also go, I get it, though. I hear something there. I hear what you've got. You've got something,
Yes.
And do you do the same thing when you look at a song from 35 years ago? You can go, not my best work, but I can see the talent.
Yes. Totally know what you're saying. It's like, okay, that's heading in the right direction 100%. And so also back in those early days, or even today, still positive when I get a call from my publishers and they're telling me that an artist has put a song on hold, that still excites me. That's all these years later, that's still exciting to me, because I know that's a step in the right direction, and they put it on hold. And the chances are, still 9 times out of 10, they won't cut it, but it's the first step. They have to put it on hold. And so for those of the folks listening, what that means is I write for Sony Music Publishing, and I write the songs, and then they go out and try to get them recorded. And so they'll play them for the record label, or for the producer, or in some cases for the artist themselves. And if they like a song, then they put it on hold. And that means like they reserve it. And when we won't play it for any other artists until they get back to us. So many times I joke and say a hold means I want to listen to it one more time before I pass on it.
Did they pay for the right to hold it, Tim?
They do not. That's a good question. I think so many people think they do, but it's not like, out in Hollywood, when they when they basically put a hold on a screenplay, they do pay. But a screenplay is different than, a 90-minute screenplay, 2-hour screenplay is different than a 3.5-minute song. So they don't. It's just a courtesy. It's just always been that way. And the other thing is, though, the industry, they know that that's our product in effect. And then when we put it on hold, that's taking our product off the market. And so they're really respectful about not tying it up too long. I mean, generally they're really good about getting us an answer back and like, okay, from the hold, it'll go on. Yes, it's on the short list to record. Like now I've got a song that Cody Johnson has on hold and it's on the short list to record. So hopefully when he goes in the next month or so, hopefully he'll record it. Now it still doesn't mean that he will, but I mean, all indications are it's looking good at the moment, but still, because still they're getting new songs in all the time. They're hearing new songs every day. They're still listening for songs. They're trying to beat always trying to beat what they have. And you can't blame anybody for that. And so hopefully, fingers crossed, he'll end up recording this song, but we'll see. And that's just kind of the world that we live in.
Can you think off the top of your head what's the longest a song of yours has been on hold?
Yeah, I can tell you. It's I can tell you exactly. Craig Wiseman and I wrote a Christmas song for Faith Hill called "A Baby Changes Everything," and that was on hold for about 2 years. About 2
Wow.
years, and just
Wow.
because of scheduling things and a combination, it was just a lot of things happened to where it kept being pushed back. But finally, she recorded it, and it was on this wonderful album. I mean, it was a number one. It was a number one on like an AC chart. So we got to have a number one party, and Faith was there, and and uh, and all of that. And it's been recorded other times, and so. But yes, that would be it. About 2 years. And the other thing is depending on the stature of the artist, depending on how big the artist is, that whole time can get lengthier and lengthier. Faith Hill, who was at that time was like, I mean, she was Faith
We
Hill.
forget how big a star she is. She was. We forget. And that's always been fascinating to me is how we lose, because, like right now, Morgan Wallen and stuff. And Morgan Wallen's so big that people forget how big Garth was. People forget how big Clint Black was, right?
100%.
And Faith falls into that. Faith, for a while there, was way more popular than her husband.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's, there's, and he'll tell you that. Yeah, he'll tell you that, and like, I've heard
And
him
you guys
say,
don't know, Tim McGraw is Faith's husband.
Mr. Faith Hill. Yeah.
It is fascinating to me how that goes. I do want to circle back on one thing. Did you get to meet Ronnie Milsap when you got signed, or
Oh,
was
sure.
that farther down the line?
Yeah. No, I mean, it was like because Ronnie, while it was his publishing company. His name was actually, it was Milsap Galbraith Music, who was the Galbraith is Rob Galbraith, who was his producer. And so Ronnie, the publishing company was on like one side of the building, and the artist and Ronnie's office and his team was on the other side of the building. And so not often, but every now and then Ronnie would be in the building when he would be looking for songs, and he would be in Rob's office. He would come over sometime, normally when they were listening for songs for a new record he was working on. And so I would see him from time to time. Yeah.
I got a chance to talk to him a few years ago before he passed. And it was such a big deal to me. And here's the thing I don't know. When somebody gets around to making a movie about Ronnie Milsap's life,
Yeah.
it is going to be astounding. They made the movie about Ray Charles's life.
Right.
Ronnie Milsap's life was just as hard, just as improbable. And the fact, I mean, wow, if you've ever deep dive on Ronnie Milsap, I encourage you guys, look up his life. It is astounding. And then to have that attitude where it may have been a public persona, but it was a great public persona. He always came across as somebody who truly was enjoying life.
Absolutely. Now, I don't think, unless it's just somehow got by me, I think Ronnie's still with us, right?
You don't think he's passed?
I don't.
It could be.
I don't
It
think
could
so.
be.
I feel
And
like he's now.
if I'm wrong, that could be.
I feel like he's still. I feel like now Ronnie is in his 80s now, and I don't think he's singing anymore because I think it was sometime last year they did they did a tribute concert for him at
Yeah.
Bridgestone
Right,
Arena
right.
here in Nashville, and he was there. Unfortunately, I had wanted to be there, and I was out of town and couldn't make it. But I think, and so although I don't think Ronnie's in the greatest shape, but I think he's
I've
still
done
with
this.
us.
You remember the comedian Richard Lewis,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So he was in studio one day and we were talking about something and he said something about or no, it was like Dave Mason. And I said, yeah, I think Dave Mason died. And he goes, Dave Mason didn't die. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure Dave Mason died. He pulls out his phone, and he goes, hey, this guy was just telling me you were dead.
That's pretty good.
And
That's
I
pretty
said,
good.
if you got to be proven wrong, that's a pretty cool
Yeah,
way
it's
to
a
be.
good. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's,
yeah,
have somebody call you right
yeah.
off the bat. He was also, because our studios, the KRTY studios were just put together with duct tape. And he's taking pictures with his phone. The pictures had just came on phones at this time. And he was taking pictures of his phone. And I said, what are you doing? He goes, I am literally sending these pictures to Seinfeld to let him know how great my life is going.
That's
And
hilarious. So
as
Richard
soon as
now Richard Lewis has died, right? Didn't
Richard Lewis
he
has
just? I
died.
mean, not that long ago. I don't think.
I think it was more than a few years
Oh,
ago.
it has been a while. It has been a
It's
while.
quick how yeah, I mean,
I
that's
have
why
no
I get lost because I remember when I talked to Ronnie, a couple of times it got delayed because he was not in good health.
right, right.
And I always told him it's no biggie.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do, it's no biggie. I mean, because I am such a big fan. I remember because I was in radio. I got in radio in 1976,
Oh
right?
wow.
And the Ronnie Milsap records were always so cool. I don't know if you knew this from the other side, because they were different colors. The record would be the single would one would be white, one would be pink, one would be blue, and nobody was doing that.
Oh, I didn't know that. But even as like in high school, I was this huge Millsap fan. I was still living in Springfield, Missouri, which is where I moved to Nashville from, and I saw Millsap in concert at some point, and I mean he was just amazing. I mean the monster singer. He could do country, he could do R&B, he could do pop. I remember he did. At one point he did a duet with Patti LaBelle, and I mean, he was just amazing. And so the thing with Millsap, even when I signed with him, with his company in '86, I mean, when Millsap was going to make a record, everybody in town, all the writers in town, it would be just like if Kenny or Luke Combs or Eric Church or any of those guys that are or Morgan Wallen, where the whole town is trying to get on their record. That's the way it was back then, '86. Back then, everybody wanted to be on a Millsap record because they knew the artist that he was, the caliber, and just how great the records sound, just how great they were. So everybody wanted to be on a Millsap record. And so I wrote a song. I had what I think was Ronnie's last hit that I think it got top 10, a song called All's Fair in Love and War
Yep, I
that
remember that song.
I wrote with a buddy of mine, Robert Byrne, who's since passed. But one of the coolest things about that was Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits played guitar on it.
How
It was
amazing is that?
crazy cool. And so I never got to meet Mark, but in the studio where they recorded, Ronnie had a studio there in that building, and they had the isolation booth, one of the booths where Mark was set up. I could hear him playing through the door. I was out in kind of the reception area, and there was a big one of those big, heavy studio doors, and Mark was on the other side of that door doing his Mark Knopfler guitar thing. And so that was just another little cool thing to say, Martin Knopfler played on a song that I wrote.
That is immensely cool. And all it ties in together, and like I said, with Ronnie Milsap, he's another one of those singers, you forget how large he was. I mean, what a difference you made in my life, and
Yeah.
almost like a song. And I mean, it is pure love. I mean, you're
Oh, yeah.
right. People sit back and talk about people like to think that anything before 1990 was just traditional country. And it's like, no, it wasn't. We had all sorts of everything. I mean, Ray Price was certainly
Yeah.
not Hank Williams.
That's right.
Right?
Oh, that's right.
I
That's
mean I
right.
mean, there was all the beautiful thing about this format has always been there's so much, and Ronnie Milsap could go from Pure Love, which is just as country as you could get, to What a Difference You Made in My Life, which
Yeah.
was a huge pop record
Hey,
too.
do you remember? I will never forget the first time I heard Stranger in My House. You remember
Mm.
that? And that guitar solo, and that turned out to be a guy that got to be a buddy of mine, Bruce Dees. And I mean, that was just like, holy smoke, what is this? And Mike Reed wrote that, and he got to be a dear friend because Mike was writing there for Millsap in the day, and he wrote so many hits. I mean, I feel like what Dean Dillon was to George Strait, Mike Reed was to Ronnie Milsap.
Mike Reed was such an interesting character. He was a defensive lineman for the Cincinnati Bengals.
First round draft pick.
And had a great career. He wasn't a washout. He had a great career, and then got into the songwriting and had a couple of hits on his own.
He did, yeah. Walk on Faith, and he was
Yeah.
on Sony, and yeah. So, and even before that, Mike played at Penn State. Joe Paterno, he won the Outland Trophy, which is the defensive equivalent of the Heisman. So, man, he was a monster. Although you talk to him and he'll say, I'll go over there, and we'd talk about football. He said, Timmy, when I played, they just had those leather hats and no, not even a face mask. And, of course he was joking, but one thing that he did say, when he was playing, there was only one lineman in the NFL that was over 300 pounds. Only one. Now, I mean, all the college linemen are 300 pounds. Heck, there are some high school guys that are 300-pound linemen. But
Not only are they 300 pounds, but they can run a 40 and 4.5.
And they're fast. And they're really fast.
That's the demarcation line. But yeah, he was such a and he is. I haven't kept up with Mike, but I was always fascinated by his career. And he was the first athlete to really get into music. And now these kids all have athletic backgrounds. I mean, how many guys do we have right now who are singing songs and writing songs that have a background in high school and college baseball, and in some cases pro baseball?
Well, yeah, Morgan for one, and I
Brett
think
Young,
yeah,
Jameson Rogers. I mean, the list just goes. When you sit back and think about it, there's a ton.
Yeah. There's a bunch.
And I asked him. I was asking Brett Young that one time. I said, "What do you think it is?" He goes, "We're used to being told no. We're used to failing." And he goes, "So failing doesn't scare us." And I'm like, that's a pretty insightful answer right there.
Yeah. Because that makes total sense. Because even when I'm talking to new writers, and maybe they don't have their first deal yet, and I'll tell them it's like when you're playing your songs for publishers for the first time, those publishers are hoping your songs will be great. They want your songs to be great. So just know that. And so when they say no, so many times they're not, I mean, it's hard, and initially it's hard to separate. Well, if they don't like or don't want my song, they don't like or want me. Nobody means it that way. So you have to be able to separate. But in the beginning, that's hard. That's not the easiest thing to do. But they want your songs to be great. But the fact is, writing a great song is hard. It's hard, and especially where, like I was saying a minute ago, for where the bar has to be to get it recorded in Nashville to kind of move the needle here. it's just not the easiest thing. And so when you're trying to get a publishing deal, then you're only competing with all the other people that are unsigned trying to get publishing deals. Well, once you get a publishing deal, then you're competing with Ashley Gorley and Jeffrey Steele and me and Craig Wiseman, and you see what then you see what you
Yeah.
see what I'm saying? Then you're competing against everybody that's been doing it for years. And
Well, that's what I've
so
always told people on our side when they go, "Why aren't you playing this song? Why aren't you playing this song?" It's like there's only so many minutes in an hour, and we have to have a rotation. That's how you build up familiarity. And you're a brand new artist with a brand new song. Well, good for you, but I've also got the new one from Reba. I've got the new one from Garth. I've got the new one from Kenny Chesney. I mean, and you're competing with them on the other side of it.
exact same thing. Exact same thing. Which brings me, speaking of new artists, which brings me to my buddy Zach Top, who has gotten through. He's made it
What
through.
was that like when you first had exposure to him? What was your thought? Because Zach Top is one of the up and comers right now.
Right.
He's one of those things that people, because there's so many people out there, but every now and then you get somebody who goes, no, you need to pay attention to this kid.
Right.
And Zach Top is one of those.
Yeah, he's just so a buddy of mine, Carson Chamberlain, called me probably about 5 years ago now. Well, I've known Carson 30 plus years. And I know that Carson knows talent when he sees it. And so there are a couple folks here in town that if there's some new artist, somebody that they found, if they're in, I'm in. I don't even have to hear them. And so Zach was like that when Carson called and said, "Hey, I've got this guy I'm working with. I think he's the most talented guy I've ever been in the room with. You want to write?" That's all I paid. That's all I need to hear. And
Wow.
so we started writing, and it's like, this guy is a monster talent from playing and singing. Also, the fact that he loves more traditional country. I mean, he knows old country songs that I don't know. It's crazy. And so
That always
we
delightful.
were writing these songs over the past 5 years, and they're pitching them to record labels, and the record labels, it's like, we've kind of heard this. It's like, this kind of, we've heard this. But there's a whole generation of people out there, folks out there, young folks that haven't heard it. So this is new to them. And so Leo 33 heard it and said, yes, we are in. And so I feel like it'll be interesting to see the way labels tend to work here in Nashville is once one label has success with a certain thing, then all the other labels want to go and try and find their own version of that. Like years ago when Brooks and Dunn hit, me and a buddy of mine, Zach Turner, had been writing songs together and playing shows. So Gary Overton signed me and Zach to his record. We got a record deal called Turner Nichols. And so we opened a bunch of shows. Keith Stegall, who produced Alan, produced us. Barry Coburn, who was managing Alan, just managed us. And so that's what happened. And so I feel like probably the majors labels now are probably trying to find their version of Zach Top. But, part of me thinks, well, good luck trying to find another one of those because he's that good. And then, I mean, when we first started writing, he was a good writer. He was good the first day we got together, but over the past 5 years, is like, it's been fun to really watch him develop those writing muscles and to know what he wants to say and why. And I remember we went just a few weeks ago. I think I told you, Carson and Zach was opening some shows for for Alan Jackson. And so Carson and I went to see a show in Tampa. This is the second to last show. And we were talking about just remembering particular days and lines and songs we were working on. And I said, I remember when we were writing "Use Me," which is one of the songs on this record that he played at this ACMs a couple weeks ago. He came up with, and I remember him saying, I can't remember now the first something. You look lonely, and he said, "Fancy that, I'm lonely too." And so so we both remembered the moment that he said that he said it that way. Fancy that, I'm lonely too, because it's like, huh, that's a little different. It's a little different. And so it's been fun to watch, like I said, over the past 5 years, how he has really gotten to be a great songwriter.
Well, to me, that's what separates anybody in any field is how quickly they learn and progress. I mean, what made Tom Brady Tom Brady? Because he got better every year, right? It's easy to peak and then that's it,
Yeah.
right? And that's where the majority of all of us, and that's not a criticism, that's where the majority of all of us go.
Yeah.
But to see these people who sit back and go, they just continue to get better and better and better. And I remember I always thought athletes, what makes a great athlete is their ability to mimic. I was at a driving range one time, and there was these two 49er players, and one was a lineman and one was a tight end. And the lineman had never played golf in his life. And he's up there just wailing. And the tight end who grew up playing golf walked over and said, "Here, do this." And within like 4 balls, whoosh, whoosh, because he could mimic, he could understand. And the people who are really good, like the Zach Tops, the Morgan Wallens,
Right.
their ability to process and then grow from it is what separates them, from having a good career to a great career to, oh my God.
Yeah, right.
So it's fascinating to me on that. And again, I sit back when you were talking about Zach knowing some of the songs that you didn't know. I am impressed when I hear some of these kids and they can talk about songs, and I would love to hear them sing it. I would love to hear Zach Top sing "Statue of a Fool."
Oh, yeah, right. Well, I guarantee you he knows it.
I'm just
and
saying,
can play
wouldn't
it.
you love to hear
Yeah,
that? Because as a songwriter, there are some songs that will never successfully be remade because they've been sung.
Yeah, right.
Nobody will ever have a hit with "Crazy." Nobody will
Yeah, that's
ever
right.
have a hit with "Whoever's in New England," or you can go "Friends in Low Places," or "Live Like You Were Dying,"
Well, I
because
appreciate
it's
it. Yeah.
a song. And that's it. I mean, and the fact that you've got a heck of a career, but we're not going to ignore the elephant in the room. I mean, was that a song when you and Craig, when you sit back and said, I know you've told the story a million times, but you're going to tell it for me.
Sure.
How did that come about? And did you know? At Reed Animal Hospital, they treat your pet as if it was their own. Now, I'm a very satisfied customer. I can tell you they mean that. It's not a chain. It truly is about helping you and your pet enjoy life together. Dr. David Reed and his entire staff take the time to get to know you and your pet. I can tell you what I like. He's helped me better understand what my dog Luna needs and how I can take care of her more efficiently and kindly. Find them online at reedanimalhospital.com. 2 locations, Saratoga and Campbell. Little secret from me to you, Dr. Reed actually gives you his cell number so he can answer your questions and concerns. They really are committed to you and your pet. reedanimalhospital.com.
So, yeah, and you've heard me tell this stuff out there at the winery at the
And it's
Clos-de-Champs.
such a good story. It's why I ask you.
So the day we wrote that song, it was just like any other day, you know. And like I said, we, you know, at the part of that joke is we got together at the crack of 11. You know, one of the things that one of the benefits of songwriting is we can kind of set your own hours. And so initially we used to start at 10, and then it became 10:30. Well, now it's 11. 11 is the new 10. So we get together. We get together and we're just having coffee and not even thinking about what we're going to write, an idea or whatever. So not even, hey, do you have any ideas, or none of that. I was just telling Craig a story that I'd heard the day before. Craig knew this guy as well. This guy's just going in for a routine physical, annual checkup. He's young, healthy as a horse. No, nothing wrong with it. Just an annual checkup. Well, his doctor calls him a few days later, and it basically tells this guy that his days are numbered and the numbers do not go very high, and they are so sorry. Well, you can imagine, I mean, how that's going to affect you. Well, this guy had always wanted to go skydive. And so when he thought that he was dying, he jumped out of a plane. He did it for the first time. He went skydiving. So I'm telling Craig this story about this guy. Well, that reminds Craig of a story that he'd heard about a woman who had been diagnosed. She had cancer, terminal. There was almost nothing they could do, but she had some time, not a lot. And while she had time, she wanted to go mountain climbing in the Rockies. So that's where the skydiving and Rocky Mountain climbing, from those two stories, those two separate stories. And we just started talking about how people, if you get bad news like that, how it would affect you, and how your whole perspective on everything would change just in that instant. And we started kicking around lines that had dying and living in them, thinking somehow that might be a song title. And we had these dying to live and dying and living, but kicking around titles like that. Out of the blue, Craig says, "Hey, how about Live Like You Were Dying?" And I was like, dude, yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. Let's write Live Like You Were Dying. And we finished it. My son had football practice that afternoon, so I wanted to get to his practice. So we were about halfway through it, and we knocked off early, and Craig called me back that night. I don't know, 10:30. I was downstairs in my basement home office, and we finished the song over the phone. I was downstairs in my basement home office. He was laying in the floor in his living room in the dark, he said. We finished it over the phone. We knew Tim McGraw was starting to look for songs. Craig had success with McGraw before. So we finished it. And so we always start always want to start when we have a new song. We always want to start with the biggest artist and then work our way down. So McGraw was the biggest artist that was looking for songs at the time. Now, if Kenny Chesney had been looking for songs at the time, if he had been the biggest artist and Tim wasn't, we would have pitched it. Kenny would have heard it. And you got to think he probably would have cut it. I think. I mean, maybe not, but McGraw was looking. And so we took it over there. Basically, Live Like You Were Dying got pitched one time to Tim McGraw. He heard it, loved it, and he recorded it. And so I feel like, but what he was going through with his dad, Tug McGraw, had glioblastoma, a brain tumor. He was going through that at the time. And I feel like what Tim was going through with his dad, that translated, that emotion and those feelings translated into his vocal performance. And I feel like it was 100% supposed to be his song. And I think it just, and that's been 21 years ago now. And so to still see from people posting it, doing posts of it while he's singing it to the Warren brothers are buddies of mine, and they were several years ago, they were out with Tim, and they would tell me just all of the ways how people would react to it. And even a few years ago, and I don't know if we've talked about this or not, Kix Brooks has gotten to be a good buddy of mine over the years. And so Kix, one day we were hanging out and Kix said, "Hey man, did I ever tell you the story that the night Tim debuted Live Like You Were Dying at the ACMs in Vegas?" I said, "No, man." He said, that evening before the show, they're all kind of hanging out there backstage, and because they're all traveling. And so for those award shows, they kind of get to see each other and hang out for a little bit. So he said that I noticed Tim just seemed a little not his normal, chill, relaxed self. He just seemed a little antsy or a little edgy, to the point that I asked him, "Hey man, what's up with you tonight?" And he said, Tim told me, he said, I am debuting what I think will be the song of my career tonight.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he knew.
So McGraw knew. And so Craig and I were there at the MGM Grand Garden Arena on the floor, sitting way in the back. And so Kix went on to say that he and Ronnie won the ACM for duo of the year. They were back in the media.
They're still doing.
That they're still doing. Yeah, that they're still doing. That they won like a couple weeks ago. So after you win those awards, you go back into a media room that's full of the press and photographers, and they're taking pictures and shouting questions. And so Kix and Ronnie were in the media room meeting the press. And so there happened to be a TV monitor up in the corner of the room that was a feed of the show. And so he saw Tim come out. And, it was all in white. I still remember it. And so Kix said, he said, "Hey, y'all, he said, we'll answer all your questions. We'll take all your pictures, but I think we're going to want to watch this." He said, "I think this is going to be special." And so they watched Tim's performance, and he said, "Man, you could have heard a pin drop." And so Craig and I, like I said, we were on the floor way in the back, and then the next year we were on the floor way in the front, because the next year we won ACM Song of the Year. But I will tell you, for me, that has been, of about 39 years, that has been watching him debut Live Like You Were Dying at the ACM Awards in Las Vegas, has been my sweetest moment in the music business. As cool as getting on stage and winning those awards and winning the Grammy for Best Country Song, as cool as that, as cool as all of those moments are, my sweetest moment was watching his performance, the production, all of that, the first time when he debuted that song, because for me, it was my idea of perfection. It's like, I didn't think it could not have been better. For me, it could not have been better. I mean, just the production, his vocal performance, everything. And so Craig and I, of course, had tears in our eyes. And like I said, that's and I've had a lot of cool moments, but I can still say that's I'll never forget it.
Were you involved in the arrangement at all? Because I mean, the best thing about it is that it starts off somber, that piano. And I mean, and I told Tim McGraw, I said, "Hey buddy, if you don't spend the rest of your career closing your shows with this song, you're an idiot." And he goes, I know. I said, because all of us, no matter, something like that, give it to me. Woohoo, humble and kind. Yeah, woohoo. Yeah. That's what we're waiting for.
Yeah.
You know, we're waiting for Judy Garland to sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. That's what we're waiting for. But the arrangement, and oh gosh, I always remember the story, and I've lost her. She wrote Humble and Kind. She's the one who wrote the
Lori
poem.
McKenna.
Lori McKenna. And I remember talking to Lori McKenna, and she goes, listen, that didn't sound like anything until Tim McGraw got a hold of it.
Mhm.
She goes, it was just me writing a letter to my kids. And then he did all of that you heard. That wasn't me. And I was wondering, when it comes to the arrangement and stuff like that, is that how you heard it?
Hey, you know what? So Craig and I did a demo. We went in the studio and did a demo. You know what? I've got I will send you the demo.
I would love to hear it.
You can hear what Tim heard, and then you can see. See what they did.
Could I play it?
Of course.
Okay. Because I want to play it too. Because I
100%.
I think, well, it's just like we always heard Scooter Caruso was saying, like Sound of a Million Dreams. He goes, man, when we wrote that song, it was an up-ditty Phil, it was an up-tempo Phil Vassar ditty.
Yeah.
These piano keys, Sound of a Million Dreams. And then David Nail said, no, that's not it.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating how it goes from that. And that's Tim McGraw. Tim McGraw and you are so tied together. Julie and I were talking about this the other day, is that you are the Tim McGraw of songwriting. What makes Tim McGraw amazing? George Strait's had 61, 62 hits, and, he's the king, okay.
Right.
But he was never, and George would be the first to tell you this, because George didn't want to work as hard as Tim ever. Tim has made a way of he's still out there doing things. He's still out there putting out good music. Right? And you and Tim McGraw are literally tied at the hip. And if I went back to in the 90s and told you guys, hey, you two are going to be together forever, it'd be interesting to see your reactions.
Well, yeah, right. For me, certainly would have been, hey, I'll take that. I don't know if it's much for him or not. But
hey, listen, once you brought him that song, you tell me he sees a song with you and Craig Wiseman on, or just either of your names. You tell me that Tim goes, we're going to listen to that.
Well, he's going to listen for sure. And that's great that we've had that connection that Live Like You're Dying is kind of will always be. So, Tim and I and Craig will always be, we'll have that connection. I mean, so far it's been the biggest record the three of us have had. I guess maybe at some point something could be bigger, but it's hard for me to imagine how.
That song, in my opinion, and it's interesting that you talked about if Kenny had been the biggest star. That song is so good. And I think Tim would be the first to admit this. Anybody would have had a hit with it.
Kenny would have had a hit with it.
George Strait would have had a hit with it. I mean, Toby Keith would have had a hit with it. Yeah. Just go down the line.
Yeah.
Nobody would have done it better than Tim.
I agree.
And the wild thing, and I've told this to Tim before, I said, the crazy thing about you, dude, is your voice is better now. And this is a couple of years ago. And I said, it sounds more effortless now when you hit those notes on Live Like You Were Dying than it ever has. And he's like, I've been working on it. Yeah. And I'm like, you're Tim McGraw. You never stop working on it. Anything.
Yeah, that's right? True. Yeah, it's true.
But anybody would have had a hit with it, but it would have never been better. Nobody would have outperformed. And you're exactly right. All the stuff that he was going through in his life was the perfect, the good Lord has a way of going, wait. Okay, now.
Yeah.
And for all of you guys to have that, and it's like I said, nobody will ever have a hit with that, ever. Now, there are some songs of yours that I wish would be re-recorded.
Same here.
By other people.
Yeah.
I would love to hear Lainey Wilson or Priscilla Block sing He Hates Me.
Oh, I'll think of a reason later. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, no, He Hates Me. Remember from Sarah Johns?
Oh, the holy smoke. Oh, yeah, right. I forgot about that.
So much.
Right.
When that song came out,
about that.
And I even said when it came out, I remember telling Nate this. I said, she's just not a big enough star to pull this off.
Yeah.
This needs to be somebody who is established.
Yeah.
And Reba was too old to do it by then, right? She somebody could have a hit with I'd Rather Ride Around With You, which is one of the most underrated Reba songs in the history of Reba songs.
Thanks a lot.
And somebody else could have it. But He Hates Me. I'm like, we don't have her yet.
I got to go back and listen to that.
Oh, tell me Laney. You could even see Miranda doing it, but Miranda would have more of a snarl, and it would be awesome. But she just wasn't big enough. Oh, you need to go back and listen.
I haven't heard that in a long time.
Wine on his shirt. I met the love of my life, and you know, the guy I want to spend the rest of my life with. The problem is, though, he hates me.
I gotta check that out. I gotta go back and listen to that.
That song, I would love to hear Cody Johnson sing "I Still Miss You."
Oh, yeah, so
Keith Anderson song.
Yeah, Keith Anderson. Yeah,
dude, you got. There's so many things. Another you're underrated. My underrated Tim Nichols songs. Jana Kramer, "I Got the Boy."
I love that. I mean, I love that song.
And she did it well, but it was never big enough.
Yeah.
So I think years from now, again, you go with who your current roster is. That you look at a Lainey Wilson. You even look at a Megan Maroney. And I know people are going to sit back and go, well, you're being mean. I hope she has the vocal chops to pull it off. But she's got everything else, right? It would be fascinating to see. There's so many of these songs that they could that could come back. And it's like you said, Zach Top being able to go, hey, this, that. And I told you about Zach Tom's. I'd love to hear him say Statue of a Fool. I know that's not yours, but there's so many of those things that you're like, wow, that would be another one. I could sit back and listen to, gosh, you could sit back. I could sit back and hear Luke Combs do the Van Zandt. Nobody's going to tell me what to do.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's a good idea. Yeah, I love that.
I'm like,
that's a good idea.
I would love to hear that voice just crawl. You've got so many songs. Like I said, you're lucky that one song will never be re-recorded, but the rest of them, because you've got so many songs. I literally wanted to ask you this: when you do one of those writer rounds, right? And you usually do it with 3, 4, 5 different people. So you only get so many songs. I kid, but I'm telling the truth. We could do an hour and a half show with just Tim Nichols.
Well,
and you would still have a hard time picking which songs to play. How do you figure that out?
Well, it's so funny you mentioned that because I'm going to be doing an evening with Tim Nichols at the Bluebird. So it's just me for an hour and a half, I guess. And so that'll be fun. And so every so often, I'll do a corporate event. And like you said, so many times it is with two or three other writers, like when we were out there last weekend. But I gotta say, and as much as I love that, and as fun as it is for us to banter back and forth amongst ourselves, it is also fun to just be up there solo because I can play more songs than what I usually get to play. I mean, maybe 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever is the most. And so it is fun. So I'm looking forward to this Bluebird show coming up. And so whenever I get the date, I'll post about it. And so hopefully people
you have to leave out so many because you're going to be humble. But this is the songs I don't know. You had forgotten He Hates Me. That's how many. When you've got that many songs, when you start forgetting them, that's a good thing.
Yeah, I thought I thought when you said because I hate her. I'll think of a reason later. That's the first thing that popped into my head. I had forgotten later. Yeah.
Again, you could see, and again, we forget there was a time when Leanne Womack with I Hope You Dance was a huge star.
Yeah.
And now time goes on.
Yeah.
And so you could absolutely see a Miranda Lambert or a Priscilla Block with I'll Hate Her. The only problem is they have to update it for social media.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Right.
But it was a moment of its time.
Yeah.
But those songs, singing that one, I don't know when's the last time you sang Vidalia from Sammy Kershaw.
It hasn't been all that long. And so many times what I'll pick, the songs that I pick, because as part of a songwriter night, the thing that people love the most and what is the most interesting about those songwriter nights is so when people get a chance to hear the stories behind the songs.
Yeah.
So so many times I want to pick the songs that were hits and that there's a cool story behind, because sometimes like even the whole I Never Lied with Zach, there's kind of like not, I mean, we just showed up that day and somehow we got to it. I don't know if I can't even remember. There's a lot that particular day, how we got to that. I mean, we were just trying to write a song that day and it ended up being a number one. But the thing with Vidalia is that morning I was looking through the morning paper and I was just thumbing through the paper and I got to the produce section, like the ad for it. Well, now here it's Kroger, here out there it's Ralph's. I think it's Ralph's
Oh, we have
grocery.
Lucky's, we have
Yeah,
Safeway.
whatever. Safeway. Anyway, it was the
But
grocery
you're
ad
looking at
at
onions.
the produce section, and Vidalia onions were on sale at the grocery store. And it's like Vidalia, man, that's a
A
cool
little
word.
city in
Yeah,
Louisiana.
and we're in Georgia, I think. Vidalia,
Is it
Georgia, where they grow
It was in Louisiana.
where they grow these sweet Vidalia onions. And I just thought, what if instead of an onion, a Vidalia was a girl? And it's like, well, I kind of like that. I like that thought. And so we're trying to figure out, okay, why would any couple name their baby daughter after an onion? So there's that. And then, you've heard me tell this story probably, I don't know. And then because I'm thinking, well, maybe her dad was an onion farmer. So he couldn't name his daughter. But then part when I'm telling the story, then I thought I should probably think some more. And so then I got onto the thing of like, when it's the firstborn child, the couple might name their baby a combination of their two names. You've heard that. So I'm thinking, if her mama's name is Violet and her daddy's name is Dale, Vidalia. And so
That makes sense.
yeah. So that's so anyway, and it kind of all goes back to what the songs that I'm going to play. It's like the brotherly love. That's like the story about my brothers. I mean, I love telling that story and it resonates with people because so many people have brothers. And so it's going to be what stories and also then what the person before me played. Because if they played a ballad, then I'm probably not going to play. Then I'm going to want to change the tempo. I'm not going to want to play two ballads in a row during a songwriter show. If they're
Good
playing a
point.
ballad, then I'm going to pick it back up and play a tempo, play No Thinking Thing or an Alan. That'd be all right. Or then if they're coming off of a tempo song, then maybe I'll go to Brotherly Love or something. So there's the pacing thing that we think about too.
That's another one of those songs. I'd love to hear Luke Combs sing "This Ain't No Thinking Thing."
That'd be
He could wail.
He is
on
such
it,
a singer, yeah.
and could just, take it to that next level.
Yeah.
And because it's just such a powerful instrument that he has, and
100%.
I love all that. I love the fact that you can tell the stories that you've worked with so many people. I mean, if you go see Tim, he tells a great story on how they came up with Cowboys and Angels from Dustin Lynch.
Yeah,
But
right.
I've always told Dustin also, I said, hey, dude, here's something you need to understand. And he goes, what? I said, you can never not sing She Cranks My Tractor. You can't. You can't. And I said, but the good thing is everybody needs a tempo song, like you were just saying.
Yeah, right.
And I said, you always have a tempo song in your back pocket.
Yeah, right. And so the day we wrote that, me and Dustin and Brett Beavers, who produced his first record, and Brett produced all the early Dirks records. Great guy. So we had been writing another song, and when Dustin said he was talking about some girl that she said she just that girl, she cranks my tractor. And it's like whoa 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 whoa. I had never heard that before, and it's like we have to write that. It's like yeah. So that's where that
That's
came
good.
from.
Okay, before I wrap it up, because I only asked you for an hour and I know you're busy, I
Oh,
did
it's all
want to
good.
talk about the whole keynote speaking thing
Oh
now
yeah
you're doing.
yeah.
How cool is that? I remember you had mentioned
Yeah.
it to me last
Yeah.
year,
Yeah.
but it's like, where did that come from?
So it came from me wanting to do a little bit more because I really enjoy the songwriter shows. And as I started doing more by myself, it was just kind of, part of it. I like a bit like what you were saying with athletes or whatever. Okay, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And I felt like it made sense that it could be that. And so, I I found there was a group, um, that because I wanted to do it, but I felt like I needed help putting all the pieces together for like a 50 or 60-minute keynote with videos and slides and all that. And so I found a company called that are in the, Lambert, a small little town, Lambertville, New Jersey, which is about 40 minutes from Philadelphia. They're called Heroic Public Speaking. And I went up there and saw them and worked with them. They're amazing. And they helped me put all of the pieces together. And I told them basically my story. I played them this, I did the songwriter. They heard me basically I did a songwriter show for them, told the stories, the jokes, all of that. And again, basically my story. And we built this keynote called You Belong in the Room. And that came from, I was telling the story about the first time that there was an award show in Nashville. There's an organization called the Nashville Songwriter Association International, NSAI. I've been on the board now and the executive committee for a long time, but years and years ago, the first time I ever went, and they have these award shows every year, the NSAI awards. And I remember the first year that I got to go to that awards and how these, Mike Reed being one, all of these writers had been my heroes for years, that I'm in the same room with them. And some of them actually knew my name. And so the fact that I felt like I belonged in that room, it was just this amazing feeling. And so when I was telling that story, they saw how I lit up telling that story of what an amazing feeling it is to feel like you belong in that room. I mean, like the first time you were ever in a control room, and
Mhm.
that feeling that you had when it's like, not like, oh crap, I shouldn't be in here. I'm a rookie. I don't know what I'm doing. I haven't been doing this long enough. But that moment when you felt like I belong in here, and what an incredible feeling that is. And so how so many people deal with that. It's imposter syndrome. I mean, Lady mentioned it she mentioned it. She said it as on her, I don't know if you saw it or not, but her acceptance speech for the Entertainer of the Year. She said, I'm
Mhm.
having a little bit of imposter syndrome here. And it's like, even
Yeah,
her at that level, we all have it. And so that's one of the things that it speaks to. And the other, it's for businesses or companies that have groups of people that collaborate. It's basically what I've learned, kind of distilled down into an hour from what I've learned of 39 years being in the room and teamwork, how to get the best out of the other people in the room. So I've got, there's like, I've condensed it down to like the 4 rules of the room. I've got video, and they were gracious enough. Reba just did a little couple-minute video clip for me talking about the first time she felt like she really belonged in the room. Dustin Lynch, and how what happens when you don't believe that you belong in the room. And one of the things that happens is you keep your best ideas in your pocket because you're too nervous to share it when you feel like you don't belong in the room. And I tell this story about which the first day we got together, Josh Lee and I got together with Dustin Lynch, and I asked him if he had any ideas. He really did, but he said that he didn't. And so he tells that whole story of how Cowboys and Angels came to be, and how he, at that moment, that first day riding with us, he he didn't believe that he belonged in the room. And so he had Cowboys and Angels was the idea he wanted to write, but he was too nervous to tell us. And so he tells that story, and then he plays a verse and a chorus of Cowboys and Angels. I talk about the Jody Messina, and so we've got video clips, and I'm just really proud of it. And I really feel like it could be valuable to businesses and companies and corporations that have teams that deal with collaboration, whether it's new product innovation or ideation, how to get the most out of your team. You
Well,
belong in the
that's the
room. So
way.
there's a website, www.timnicholskeynotes.com. Check that out if you're interested. So yeah.
Well, no, it fits right in, and that's why I wanted to bring it up because I don't work in the corporate world, but my wife does.
Yeah.
She's upstairs right now, one of her 19 meetings,
Yeah.
and nobody does anything by themselves. Nobody does like Dean Dillon and Harlan Howard did, and just sit in a room by themselves and write on a cocktail napkin. Everybody collaborates, and that world, I find the world of entertainment goes quicker than the rest of the world. Right.
Mhm.
So, like for us, we're always a little bit of a trendsetter. I remember when people years ago started having to move to different cities to work. And I'm telling you, here in San Jose, people were just horrified.
Okay.
I've got to move to Denver to work. I've got to move. Those of us in the entertainment business, that's what we did.
Right.
That's what we've always done.
Yeah.
And we were collaborating long before it became a thing in business. So I've always thought that was a brilliant masterstroke on your side. I'm gonna sneak into one of your keynotes.
You know
one
what?
day.
Actually,
You can do one around here, and I'm going to sneak in.
Actually, when I send you the demo for Live Like You Were Dying, I'll send you it's a link, a Dropbox link to like a 6-minute little video clip, and you can
I'd
get a
love
little
to.
sample of it.
I'd love to. Tim Nichols, again, I'm glad it took me a couple of years. And of course, if you think I've covered all the topics I want to talk with you about, you're wrong. And so at some point, I'm going to bug you
Let's
again.
do a
And
part
next year.
2.
So dude, I'm all in. I didn't even get to, I told you I had no questions. I had no questions. We were just going to go down whatever rabbit holes and stuff like that. I still want to find out the songwriters who drop your jaw, the songs that you just, the songs that got you up and running, the movies, what things you read, books.
Yeah.
There's so many different things just in the minutia of songwriting that I have always found fascinating. And it's rare when you get to be, and again, you can be embarrassed. It's okay. It's rare when you get to ask these questions of somebody of your stature. So it is just such a delight on my part to be able to do this.
Well, I mean, I can't believe it's an hour and 10 minutes has already gone by, and it seemed like about 5. So let's just do a part 2. It's always great. I love talking to you. It's always great to see you. So we'll just and we'll try and figure it out, try and get a date. And
I'll get you Tim Nichols.
and we'll do it again. We'll do part 2. I'd love to do that. I'd be happy to do it.
I'm excited for it. Tim, you're the best.
Thanks, buddy.